NHS staff going to be banned from doing agency work? You find out in today's video. Stop that. If, let's say, an NHS pays its regular Band 5 nurse staff £15 per hour, and let's say they're short-staffed and they have to get another nurse from an agency, right? The NHS usually pays way higher. They could be paying this agency nurse as much as £40 an hour, or maybe sometimes even higher than that. So that means anytime the NHS does not have enough of its own permanent staff where it can pay £15 an hour and it has to go to an agency to get temporary nurse to fill that vacancy temporarily, they spend loads of money. Sometime last year, the figures were out. The figures that the NHS spent on agency staff came out. It was crazy. So apparently, the NHS spent £4.6 billion on NHS agency doctors alone. Yes, these are not my words. These words are online and you can see them, with some doctors earning as much as £5,300 per shift. The £4.6 billion was spent in a span of over 5 years. But this is still crazy. And they spent similar amounts in a span of 5 years with NHS nurses as well. And with NHS nurses, some nurses are taking as much as £2,300 per shift. However, if they had enough permanent staff where they were paying these £15 an hour and £16 an hour, they wouldn't have had to spend this amount of money. Agency staff are making the government use loads of money to fund the NHS, and this is all due to the shortage. That is why I keep telling you people that you are needed, because immediately the NHS gives you a contract, permanent contract, and recruits you from wherever, and then you come to the UK, it reduces the amount of agency workers that they need to get. Okay, so it helps them cut costs. So sometimes when people are acting too desperate and begging employers, literally, they need you as well. Anyway, away from that. So now there's been headlines that the NHS is likely to stop agency staff. How true is that? So the reason why people are saying that is because recently the NHS commissioned what we call the NHS Long-Term Workforce Plan. This was commissioned by the government, and this is a long-term plan because it's a span of about 15 years. The government is actually pledging to fund this whole workforce plan with about £2.4 billion. So what are they doing? Okay, so they've set out a series of interventions to train, to retain, and to reform the NHS workforce. So there's so many things that they promised to do to fight the shortage. And one of the things that they are mentioning is that obviously because they're spending these figures with agency, they are willing to have more permanent staff so that they will reduce the amount of money that they pay for agency staff. You understand? Because if they have enough permanent staff, like I said earlier, there'll be no need for them to get agency staff, right? And these are the words. The recruitment drive will also allow it to become less dependent on agency staff, cutting the bill for taxpayers by around £10 billion between 2030 and 2037. They are doing a lot of things to make people want to do permanent jobs. And some of the things that they are willing to do are improve leadership well-being and ensure that 130,000 fewer staff leave the NHS in the next 15 years. They want to make less people leave than usual. So they want to improve flexible opportunities for prospective retirees to keep them in the NHS workforce for longer and make it easier for those who have already left to come back in flexible contracted roles or as temp. Okay, so they want to keep people that are, looking to retire very soon. They want to keep them in the job by giving them maybe very flexible shifts or whatever, and then make it easier for those that have already left, those that have already retired, to sort of like come back to help as temporary staff. Okay, so that's very good. Another thing is they want to also reform the pension scheme so that staff can partially retire or return to work seamlessly to continue building their pension after retirement. Okay, so another thing is they want to commit to ongoing national funding for continuing professional development, that's more training for nurses and midwives, so that staff are supported to meet their full potential. And then they also want to improve, this is my favorite part, improve childcare support, okay, to help enable NHS staff to stay in work, and through changes made in the spring budget for working parents over the next 3 years. So for people like myself who are really maybe like to cancel shifts or not be able to pick a lot of shifts because of childcare, so that it will be more flexible for you to keep coming, so that they'll retain you. Okay, so these are some of the things that they aim to do to retain people so that they will not have to depend on agency staff, so that they don't spend this huge amounts of money. So they did not say that they will stop recruiting or getting agency staff. However, they're trying to retain more of it their permanent staff so that they'll be less dependent on getting agency staff. So the NHS did not tackle just agency hiring alone. There are so many things that the workforce or the fact sheet, tackled, they discussed in this long-term workforce plan. They tackled international recruitment. They also tackled what's going to happen with medical degree training, apprenticeships, AI, even the use of technology, and so many other things. But guys, this video is only to talk about whether or not the NHS is going to stop using agency. Not yet. And even if they stop agencies, they are most likely to also still use people that sign up for bank shifts in the same trust. You understand? Okay, so basically that is that there is not a definite statement that they're going to stop, but they aim to reduce their dependence on, because these figures are huge, really, right? So basically that's that. Yeah, if you want to know what the workforce plan says about recruitment, says about medical degree training, apprenticeships, etc., international recruitment, and many other things, watch this video right here.